Engineers in the military are very yin and yang, always building this, then destroying that. Responsible for creating buildings, bases, bridges, and roads, then at the same time also charged with the destruction of enemy landmines, barricades, and fortifications. Because of their unique role, they carry around some of the high-speed equipment you'll rarely see, like the anti-personnel obstacles, breaching systems, which is similar to the more widely known Bangalore torpedo. This device is primarily used for clearing barbed wire and landmines. Combat engineers have to be prepared to stop building and return fire if the enemy decides to show up. They're basically construction workers with guns, ready to pick up a shovel or rifle at any moment. $1 million idea, rifle with a shovel attached to its rail system. Rebecca, can we get a mock-up of that? Perfect, I can hear the safety briefings already. Today, the elite of the engineers earn their Sapper tab by graduating from a 28-day course, which is a crash course in explosives and construction. Engineers have a long list of responsibilities ranging from camouflaging installations and gun emplacements to creating maps. The word sapper originally comes from the French word spade, which means e-tool. You know, the thing that you use to dig a hole in the woods after you get stuck with the omelet MRE. It was at first a tactic called sapping, which was used by forces up to World War I to dig trenches closer and closer to enemy fortifications so they could stay protected while advancing on a position. Once they had gotten close enough, they would move artillery through the trench and fire at the enemy walls in order to punch a hole right through large enough for infantry to charge through. Engineers in the US Army have had a pivotal role in every war, with a role that has changed drastically in each new conflict. They've had to try to adapt and overcome to each new challenge. During the Korean War, they were instrumental in slowing down the North Korean advance in the early days of the war by destroying bridges. Many of the tunnel rats of Vietnam were engineers who cleared out the infamous vast and complex tunnel systems that the enemy used for transporting troops and equipment. They faced hand grenade traps and constant threat of cave-ins. During the Iraq and Afghanistan conflicts, they took on a new role of helping rebuild the infrastructure in those countries, including schools and hospitals. They also filled the gaps of the understaffed EOD teams. Engineers have often been given the role of route clearance, which is one of the most important jobs in the military during these conflicts, given how fond the enemy was of using landmines. Combat engineer teams walled off entire sections of Baghdad with a 12-foot high, 1-foot thick concrete walls called T-walls, or Texas barriers, that everyone who's been over there is familiar with. The interconnecting slabs of steel reinforced concrete help to stop attacks in the green zone. And they're also the favorite target of barracks artists who love to cover these things in insignias and unit decals. You also see these walls used to build out all the combat outposts around Iraq and Afghanistan that were key to General Petraeus' strategy, centered around pushing out units off the large bases into the middle of town so they could interact with the local populations and stop the insurgency. One thing's for sure, Combat Engineer 12 Bravos are definitely one of the most important roles in the US military.